Now we're replacing our exhaust system, and one of the things it's going to do for the engine is reduce back pressure. Less back pressure, more flow. It makes sense. But let's break down exactly what's going on in this engine, because there's a couple of key things in there that we don't always think about. Now if we start out, I've got my cylinder here, my piston, my connecting rod. I've got my intake track. My intake valve right now is closed. And I've got my exhaust. I've got my exhaust valve open. I'm coming up on TDC and I'm pushing out all that hot exhaust. Now if we start out with our maximum power we can make, it's the air we can get in plus the fuel. So that's essentially the power we can get out of that cylinder. Well, unfortunately, we got to subtract off a few things. So first of which is mechanical friction. So mechanical friction is anything from my ring pack rubbing against my cylinder walls, lubrication getting sheared as things go round and round, alternators, valve train, all that mechanical friction, it makes sense. So that gets subtracted from the power I can make. Well, there's also pumping work or pumping friction. You think, well, what is that? Well, I got air coming in and I got air coming out, but it takes work to actually pull that air in, especially if my throttle's open or closed, it's going to be more or less work pulling it in. And if I got more restriction, I've got more work pushing it out. And it's actually a fairly significant amount, so that's pumping friction. So I've got work subtracting off the power I can make. Well, let's look at density. As the pressure in the exhaust system goes up, and that's what we're trying to reduce, is all back pressure from the exhaust pipes, all the bends and expansion, contractions, all those losses. The density in this entire track will go higher or lower depending on the pressure. Well, if you go all the way back into the cylinder, into the combustion chamber, well, there's hot gas sitting in there. This piston stops here, so it can't push any farther. So all that is still there. So when that exhaust valve closes, the higher pressure I have in this system, the higher the density, more hot stuff that I can't do anything with. Well, if we look at the cylinder itself, you know, right about here, the stroke of this piston as it comes down defines the displacement. That's the maximum amount of air and fuel that I can get in. So we talk about the efficiency of filling as volumetric efficiency. Tuning can help get more of that in and more of it out. But if I've got stuff in here and it's real dense, as soon as I open up my intake valve, some of that stuff is going to take away from my volumetric efficiency. I want to get numbers like 90, 95, 100, on a race engine, maybe 110%. I want to get more air in here than this cylinder actually holds by trying to stuff it in this region. So the more I have of that, the more stuff I can't get in, which is power. Well, there's another aspect, knock. If this is hot gas, I'm already starting my whole compression with my fresh charge at a hotter temperature. I'm going to knock earlier, and I can't advance my spark. Spark advancement is all about power too. So there's a lot of aspects in here controlling the power just by looking at the back pressure. So I've got pumping friction, I've got volumetric efficiency, and I've got this residual that I got to be concerned about because that's spark.